And new books for fall 2016. I've got the usual categories of politics, history, science, philosophy, and also economics and some fiction. So I'm going to start with politics. This book, so I should mention that some of these books I got from buying an order from the Mises Institute. They had a 50% off sale a couple months ago now. Some Mises 50% off sale. And so this book was one of them that I got. The Decline of American Liberalism. So this is really a history of the United States, but it does tour the political changes in the United States and what was known, I guess, as American liberalism, which is certainly not the same as liberalism today. So the person that wrote a foreword to that book wrote this book, which I'm not sure where I got this from. I think I must have got this from a library sale or something. Crisis and Leviathan. It's critical episodes in the growth of American government. So this is about big government and its growth. This was published in '87. So this is also, it wasn't for the Mises Institute order, but this is all the authors associated with that. Here's another book by Judge Napolitano, Constitutional Chaos. It's actually a short book. I read his, I think it's called It's Dangerous to Be Right When the Government is Wrong. So he's been on Fox News for a while, but he was a circuit court judge for I'm not sure how many years, I'm sure a few decades. And he used to run a show called Judicial Watch on Fox News. And he's pretty good. And like I said, I read his other book, and it was good, a good tour of changes in the Constitution of the United States. And the reason why I'm interested in the Constitution, because up in Canada, we don't have a Constitution, we have a charter. And I don't think our charter is as robust as the American Constitution. And it's probably because we're not quite a separate nation like the United States is. We're still very much tied to Britain in some ways. And I think that's probably why we have a charter and not a constitution. In many ways, the Constitution, certainly the Declaration of Independence, led to the Constitution and to the Bill of Rights, whereas in Canada, we don't have such documents. We have a charter, and all throughout the charter, there's quite a few similarities between the rights granted in the Bill of Rights and then the protections given to citizens from the government based in the Constitution. But our charter in Canada has all kinds of wiggle room by using the word reasonable. What is reasonable? So we have free speech provisions in Canada, but it always can be disrupted based on what is, quote, reasonable. And when you put words like that in, do we really have rights if they can just be taken away at any circumstance, just based on what is, quote, reasonable? Well, what is, quote, reasonable? So I just think that adds a subjectivity to the law, which makes predictions of having rights very difficult, because when you go to a lawyer and you talk to them about what might happen in this situation, they can't give you guarantees. All they can say is, well, your rights aren't guaranteed. Your rights are provisional. And if you attend court with these various charges, it's up to the judge what happens. And it's not like you can predict or be safe with having certain rights. Are they absolute? Does it make sense to have rights that are not absolute? So I think that's a problem. It's certainly a problem in Canada. And I think the U.S. model of a constitution seems like it's more robust for actually protecting people's rights. So that's why I'm interested in constitutional stuff. Here's another book on American, I guess it's politics. Again, it's about American history. It's called The Idea of America, Reflections on the Birth of the United States. So this I must have got from a library sale. And the text is huge. I'm not sure why. But anyways, another piece of American history that will read sometime. I'm curious, though, why the text is so huge. Here's one that should be good. The Social Conquest of the Earth. This is by Edward O. Wilson. He wrote several books on biology type questions and sociology, and I did read, I think I read the whole thing. He has a book called Consilience, and he was trying to create a general theory of both physics. You know how Einstein was trying to create a general theory of what was it called, of matter or something like that. But he was trying to create a general theory of both hard sciences and soft sciences. And I think he even talked a little bit about the humanities in his book called Consilience. And I applaud such attempts because we tend to think that things are connected, and why can't the social sciences and humanities be in some ways connected to the hard sciences? So this is another one of his books, and I'm curious to find out what else he has written. So here's another one that I picked up. Here's a fantastic find that I think I found it at the recent library sale. I've been looking for a copy of this book for quite some time, and it's always very expensive online. There must be not a lot of copies available. But this, Isabel Paterson, I did read this several years ago, and I had to get it from my university library. But this is a fantastic precursor, really, to Ayn Rand, if you're interested in her and her ideas, because many of her ideas, it seems to me, came from Isabel Paterson. And I do know that they knew each other back then. This would have been like in the 40s, I think, the 50s. And this book is a history, really. It's called The God of the Machine, but it talks about, it starts with in Roman history, and then talks about more contemporary political philosophy. And what's neat about this little copy is, when I flipped through it, is it contained this, Ayn Rand's, and then review of The God of the Machine. It's just like a little, I don't know, 4 pages or so. So that's a neat little addition to this. It was just stuck inside of it. I didn't notice it when I purchased it, but after I got home and flipped through it, that was in there. So that's pretty neat. But that's a nice find because it's a rare book and it's not being printed anymore, so it's hard to find those copies. And then here's another book on politics that I got from the Mises sale, and I think it was $1 or something. So I'm like, okay, I'll take it for $1. Liberalism Today, or Libertarianism Today. And I don't think it's that dated, 2010, so it's not bad. I have been curious about how the movement has been going. This recent election, the Libertarians had a humongous chance to become the voice of reason and reasonableness amongst, bombast Trump and corrupt Clinton. And yet we have in there Gary Johnson, who, why was he elected? Well, because he was a governor of a state, and that's big credentials, and that makes you a plausible candidate. Unfortunately, the other candidates didn't have such credentials, like John McAfee, the antivirus guy. He's a bit of a weirdo, and he would have been a strange candidate to run with, and it probably would have, for too many non-libertarians, it would have just probably made the movement look worse. And then the other one, what was his name? There was a younger guy who was a constitutionalist, who actually was impressive, but he's a nobody. So they ran the old politician of Gary Johnson, who was the governor of New Mexico. And his VP was also another governor. But he really flopped this election. He had the best chance the libertarians ever had to get in the U.S., and they did an awful job. So anyways, this is 2010, so this won't cover the election. But I'm just curious to see some of the reports and about what happened. I'm trying to think, when was the Ron Paul revolution? Was that 2008 or was it 2012? I'm not sure, but it must have been not that long ago. It must have been 2012, the Ron Paul revolution stuff. But anyways, I guess it must have been. So this won't talk about that either, but I thought maybe this would be interesting to see how the movement was going back then, because I'm always kind of curious about, is it organized, is it not? So that should be good. All right, so that's for politics, and next will be history.